Hey everybody, it's Ben and I'm back once again with another video for you guys. Today I'll be reviewing Harbinger Volume 2, Renegades. The series is written by Joshua Dysart, and on the second volume we have a few various different artists on the second volume. We have Phil Briones, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, it's Briones. Barry Kitson, Lee Garbett, Pepe Perez, Matthew Clark and Alvaro Martinez on the artwork. On the inking we have Phil Briones doing his own inking. We have Andrew Hennessy and Stefano Gaudano, Gaudino, however you choose to pronounce that. On the colouring we have Ian Hannon along with Dan Brown and Moose Bauman. Bauman, however you choose to pronounce that. And this second volume collects issues 6 through 10 of the Harbinger series, which is published by Valiant Entertainment. So the story starts out and we meet the character of Chris Hathaway, who is still dealing with the emotional fallout from the events of the first volume, which is Omega Rising, which collects issues 1 through 5 of the Harbinger series. And she's still trying to move past the invasion of her own free will and of her mind done by a former friend, Peter Stanchek, who has just mysteriously come back into her life. And it turns out that Peter, our main series protagonist and our main male lead, is a Psyot, who is someone with superhuman abilities. And this, at the same time, while all this craziness is going on in Chris's life, you have Faith show up outside of her window, who's another Psyot, or someone with superhuman abilities, who can actually fly. And she goes through a few different costume incarnations during this second volume, or the Renegades story arc, who comes to Chris's house looking for her help because, unfortunately for Peter, he's still pretty banged up after the events of the first volume in Omega Rising, where he got into a psionic battle with Toyo Harada, the founder and the leader of the Harbinger Foundation, along with a bunch of Harada's fellow Psyots. So we have Chris, unfortunately, again dragged back into the madness that is Peter's life, who's a street kid. He's on the run from the law, he's on the run from Harada and the Harbinger Foundation, and he's also on the run from Project Rising Spirit, or PRS, who you may know from the pages of Bloodshot, which is another another Valiant series, sorry. And we find out that the three decide that if they want to basically go up against Toyo Harada, then they need backup and they need help. So they set out to find more unactivated Psyots. And at the same time, you have a great deal of intrigue surrounding the Harbinger Foundation. And there's reference to a Harbinger War which took place in the past. There's also a great deal of intrigue which surrounds the relationship between the Harbinger Foundation and the Project Rising Spirit, or the PRS military operation. We also get introduced to another of our unactivated Psyots, and that is Charlene, who's a stripper with the stage name of Flamingo. So we meet Charlene, and we get glimpses into Charlene's past through flashbacks, and we find out that she was pretty much she was a bit of a tart, really, in all honesty, growing up, and her father was fully willing to accept that his daughter was a bit of a tart, but her mother repeatedly stuck up for her daughter, and eventually Charlene just up and left the small town where she lived to make her way to the big city, and unfortunately she fell in with a guy who is a bit of a douchebag, and he's been making life hell for her ever since. And here's a great shot of Pete and Charlene together, with Pete activating Charlene's psionic abilities, or ability I should say, which is that she can literally wield fire, as you can see there. The artwork in this by the various different artists is absolutely fantastic. You may be worried from hearing that this particular volume is illustrated by a few different artists, but honestly the artwork, along with the writing and the storytelling by Josh Dysart, is still absolutely fantastic, absolutely stellar, and I cannot recommend not only Harbinger but Adrian Armstrong, Bloodshot, and Exo Manowar from Valiant enough. The work that Valiant is doing on their series since their reboot back in 2012 has been absolutely fantastic, and all the work that I've read from Valiant so far has been nothing short of, again, absolutely fantastic. And there's a great character moment for Charlene where she literally burns her douchebag boyfriend alive by setting his family jewels on fire, as you can see there and there. But at the same time, Josh Dysart gives the character of Charlene a great moment of clarity, where she's actually finally free of the douchebag boyfriend. We also meet another two characters, Jake and John Torkelson. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Just bear with me 1 second. Torkelson, sorry, I do apologize. And we meet the character of John Torkelson, who is the unactivated Psyot, who is physically handicapped, and his ability is that he can enter this fantasy world called Torkala, where it's basically him being the hero of this fantasy world and driving around in a monster truck, slaying demons and hooking up with hot ladies. But at the same time, John Torkelson uses this to basically escape himself and escape the fact that he is physically impaired. But at the same time, as I showed you in that double page spread, John decides to use his abilities in the real world, doing an action scene with our Psyots and Project Rising Spirit, and he pretty much becomes pretty much invulnerable, really. Not to say that he can't be hurt, but he is superhumanly strong, and he's able to bring down a helicopter that's attacking our Psyots single-handed, as you can see there. At the same time, there's some really great action scenes and some great battles which take place with our Psyots and Project Rising Spirit. We also get the backstory of Faith, growing up with her grandmother after her parents were killed in a car accident. And you see Faith growing up with her grandmother, and basically she grew up reading comic books, as you can see. If I find you the right page. Yeah, as you can see, there's all the long boxes, which her parents, I'm guessing her dad must have read comics from what the dialogue says between the characters. And there's also some more fantastic pop culture references on the part of Faith through Josh Dysart. And I have to admit, I did have a grin on my face when I read some of the references. And you also get Faith going through her second costume incarnation, which is the all-white costume from the Harbinger uniforms that they stole from the Foundation. Which personally, I prefer Faith in the all-white costume, but that's just my personal opinion. And at the same time, you have a really awesome character moment for Peter as well, where he literally blows the minds off of 10 troops of PRS, and literally, as you can see from the illustration in the third panel, he literally lobotomizes 10 of their troops from performing a psychic scream, which he unleashes all of his anger that he's kept bent up inside of himself after all these years. And you also have Peter coming into his own as a leader of these untrained psyops, or kids with superhuman abilities. As you can see, there's another really cool shot of Charlene using her pyromance abilities, or ability, I should say, as you can see there. Well, at the same time, there's a great bit of action, and there's a lot of great intrigue surrounding the Harbinger Foundation and the Project Rising Spirit. Joshua Dysart still finds time to really flesh out all of these characters and really developing them as well, and we get to see the relationships between these characters, and at the same time we really get to know a lot more about each of these characters as a whole through the second volume of Harbinger. As I said just now, the writing by Joshua Dysart and the storytelling continues to be absolutely stellar and absolutely fantastic, and the artwork done by the various different artists, along with the inking and the colouring, is equally on par with Josh Dysart's writing and storytelling, in my opinion. I said this before at the start of the video, but if you aren't reading Valiant and the comics that they have to offer right now on store shelves, I cannot recommend Valiant enough. Not only do I highly recommend Harbinger, but I also highly recommend Archer and Armstrong by Fred Van Lente, Bloodshot by Dwayne Straczynski, and Exo Manowar by Robert Venditti. If you are curious about Valiant, I cannot recommend you check out at least the first volumes of the series that I mentioned enough. They collect the first 4 issues of each series, and the first volumes are going for £5.40 on Amazon UK, and they're going for $8.99 on Amazon.com. I highly recommend you check out the series that I mentioned from Valiant. As I said, absolute 5 out of 5 for Harbinger Volume 2. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. And that about concludes this review video, guys. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Didn't like it, thumbs it down. But as I always say, if you thumbs down the video, please feel free to tell me why in the comments below, or send me a private message. If you're new to my channel and you'd like to see more of my videos, please feel free to subscribe. And until next time, this is Gambit896 signing off. And as always, remember, keep reading those comics, and I'll see you guys later. Take care, guys.